everybody. I'm Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. The aim of this podcast is to raise awareness about blindness, visual impairment, and disability in general, in a happy and light-hearted way. For those of you that don't know, I am blind. I was born with a condition called bilateral anophthalmia. Try spelling that one. It basically means that when I was born, my eyes didn't develop properly, so I wear prosthetics instead. The goal of this podcast is to remove some of the stigma and stereotypes around disabilities, whilst also having fun at the same time. Each week, I will be interviewing people from all walks of life, including some with hidden or physical disabilities like mine, and getting to know a little bit more about them and the lives they lead. This week, I am very excited to tell you that I will be talking to actor, presenter, and disability advocate Adam Pearson. My name is Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. Hey Adam, how are you?
I am very well, thank you, Evie. How are you, more importantly?
Oh, I'm really good, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've literally been so excited to do this all day, so thank you so much.
No, absolute pleasure. I have also been excited.
Oh, I'm so glad. Have you been up to anything nice today?
Today was like a bit of a decompression day. So I kind of went into London for my sins. I'm a massive Lego fan. So I went in, got some new Lego that I'll build over the next few days, and then just chilled out, saw a couple of mates, going to a karaoke session this evening. So yeah, having like an Adam day after the massive rush that has been the start of this year.
Oh, love that. I think it's so important to have chill days, especially if, like you've had a massive rush of the past couple of weeks. It's so important to just have days where you can just decompress.
And I think we all need those little kind of quiet places or oases where we can go and just exist. And it's only for an hour a day, half a day. Just forget about the hustle and bustle that can come with adulting. No one told you adulting would be this hard at school. They're like, yeah, look, here's math, here's English, here are the Romans. Now go into the real world and good luck with that. And since I left academia, no one's asked about the Romans or the Aztecs. I wasted years learning about the Romans and the Aztecs, and no one's asked me anything.
See, this is why I didn't take history for GCSE. I don't need to worry about it. But yeah, no, not necessarily looking forward to being an adult, but we'll just roll with it. It'll be cool. It'll be fine.
One day at a time. One day at a time. That's how I've been taking it for the past 21 years. I'm 39. I still haven't cracked it, but I'm faking it remarkably well.
Well, you need to just fake it till you make it. You'll be fine.
Yeah, just walk out and smile, answer everyone's questions, and hope no one has any follow-up questions.
Yeah. There we go. It's cool. Okay, then. So, to begin with, could you tell me a little bit about the condition that you were born with?
Absolutely. So I have a genetic condition called neurofibromatosis type 1. It's a genetic condition that affects the 17th chromosome in the human genome, has a prevalency rate of 1 in 2,300 births, which puts it just within the boundaries of being classified as rare. The benchmark for rare is 1 in 2,000. And what the condition causes is non-cancerous tumours called fibromas to grow on nerve endings. So in the same way that electric cables are wrapped in plastic, our nerves are wrapped in cells called Schwann cells. And the condition causes these cells to grow exponentially, which causes the aforementioned tumours to grow. And they can occur anywhere on the central nervous system. Most of mine are on my face and upper torso. I've got a little one on my hand. And there's also like this massive spectrum of the condition. Some people who have it are relatively unaffected, and I'm all the way at the other end. I often refer to myself as the spinal tap of my condition, and I've turned it up to 11.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I get that. And I believe as well that you have a twin brother with the same condition, but for him it manifests itself differently.
Yes, so with Neil, we're genetically identical. He, though, has short-term memory loss and epilepsy. He's got a little bit of the visual side of it, but yeah, completely different experience, which breaks the idea of, and this is one of the tropes of disability that annoys me. It sort of breaks the monolith slightly. I always say to people, if you've met a disabled person, congratulations, you've met a disabled person, but don't use that one experience as a way of governing the entire community or look at the entire community through that one tint or one kind of lens or framework. So yeah, I'm always a fan of anything that breaks the old monolith of disability.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree with you. Because for me, I'm totally blind. I've been blind since birth, can't see anything. But there is blindness is a massive, massive spectrum. And for me, I've had experiences where people just assume that everyone who is blind can see nothing at all. That is not the case. Some people, some people can just see light and dark. It's a massive spectrum. So I hate when people assume that just because they met someone with a disability, everyone with a disability is then the same. I hate it.
Well, yeah, because I'm registered as partially sighted. I've got the old the pink I call it jokingly the blind guy card. You know, the one you go and slap on a bar, like
Yeah, yeah.
I literally the literal disabled card. I love it. So yeah, and do people assume that you know other blind people? Because I get it all the time. Just like, oh, you're disabled, or you're blind. You know Lucy Edwards,
Oh
and I'm
my God,
like,
I hate it. Yes.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And then I've got to have that awkward conversation with them, and then afterwards walk away feeling guilty because I do know Lucy Edwards.
Oh my God, that's cool. But yeah, I get that all the time. It's like, you're blind. Have you met my friend who's blind? No, I haven't. Like, just because I'm blind does not mean I am friends with every other blind person in the world. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
reckon a lot of them aren't great as well. I reckon statistically, one of them's got to be an arsehole. So,
yeah,
not you, not Lucy, but statistically, one of them just has to be, because that's how humanity works.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally agree with you. So we were talking a little bit earlier about being an adult. I am still a teenager, but I was wondering, could you tell me a bit about what your childhood was like?
Ooh, I grew up, luckily, my adolescence was devoid of social media. Like that genie hadn't come out of the bottle, and that Hydra had yet to be unleashed onto the world. And when you're a teenager, like anyway, if you even take disability out of the teenage adolescent experience, it is miserable. Like you're trying to finish school, and all you really want to do is like get laid, finish school, and the misery of puberty to completely end. And then you've got all these grown-ups who are like, "Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?" As if what you are right now isn't enough. You got to contend with that. And I suppose having a disability compounded that. You have to the secondary school playground is Darwin's theory in perfect motion. Just and
Mhm.
you buy into this bizarre economy of popularity that at the time really matters. And it isn't until you're like a few years removed from it that you look back and just see it for the poppycock that it is. And you all on the last day of school, you'll all cry, hug each other, write something pseudo sentimental, yet equally nonsensical in someone's book, promise to keep in touch and be best friends forever, and then you never see them again. That's like the high school experience. So yeah, for me it was like dog ass rock. I got bullied quite a lot. Granted, handled it badly. The man that presents today is a man who's had to learn to get it right by getting it wrong a lot. And I was always in the unfortunate position where I was a lot smarter than the kids who were bullying me. And I think man's greatest weapon are his words. So I've just been like blowing kids up in the playground. It's just like I'm smarter than you and I'm funnier than you, and my vocabulary's way better than yours. This ends terribly for everyone
Yeah.
concerned. So I went on this sort of like scorched earth policy of just burning everything to the ground. That in the there and then felt like the morally correct thing to do. But now looking back on it, I'm like, you could have handled that with a way more dignity and class than you did. And you know, but then we all learn by our mistakes. And I think adolescence and childhood is the time to make those mistakes. And if it wasn't, we just all give birth to adults and be done with it all, right? And I
Hmm.
think failure isn't the opposite of success; it's the journey to success. And as long as you're not making the same mistakes day in, day out, because that's Einstein's definition of insanity, is doing the same thing but expecting a different result. As long as you're not that guy and you're not actually kind of doing physical harm to someone, make all the mistakes you want. As long as you own them, acknowledge them, and apologize and rectify them, I think mistakes are fine.
You are so intelligent. Oh my God. Um, but yeah, no, I totally agree with you. But yeah, being a teenager is hard because, like you've just said, you've got to fit in, and you realize that very quickly. You've got to fit in, otherwise you're kind of screwed. And if you've got a disability, that's pretty much a free pass not to fit in. So you're going to have to find your own way of coping, or this is what I've learned. You're going to have to find your own way of coping because you know full well you're not going to be popular.
Fitting in is for losers. They might seem cool now, but if you look at any cool, successful adults, none of them used to fit in at all. One of my heroes is a man called Hideo Tajiri, who was a young Japanese boy with autism at school, didn't have any friends, so sort of used to invent his own friends, used to draw creatures and they'd become his friends. And those drawings then went on later to become what we now call Pokemon.
Whoa. Oh my God, is that where that originated from?
Yeah. Pokemon originated from the drawings and make-believe friends of an autistic child in Japan.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah, but Richard Branson, heavily dyslexic, didn't finish school, and Steve Jobs, also on the spectrum. And Steve Jobs is a man who's changed the way we all interact. There's not a day in my life that goes by that doesn't have Steve Jobs' fingerprints all over it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is so cool. I did not know any of that, but I kind of get it now. It kind of makes sense now you say it. But yeah, it is just about if you don't fit in, finding your own way of doing things. Um, but obviously, like you mentioned, you were bullied in school and you kind of have been all your life. So, I mean, how did that impact you?
You have a lot of these what Batman refers to as the dark nights of the soul. So I had a very decent family support network around me. And I've always said you can have one good cry over anything, but then you've got to make a choice to pick yourself up and like crack crack on with things. And the people that matter don't mind, and the people that mind don't matter. And if my mum ever caught me having like those mopey moments, she'd like storm into my bedroom like Gordon Ramsay into a shit restaurant and be like, "What are you doing? It's raw. Um, get up and like carry on with it." And I think the four greatest words in the English language are "I told you so." So you put your head down, you're proven wrong, and then when the moment's right, you rub that face in it a little bit and be like, "Look at me now, mother truckers."
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I totally agree with you. But I mean, I would imagine that when you are bullied like that, you kind of have to find coping mechanisms to deal with it. You've mentioned that you used vocabulary a lot because your vocabulary is really good. But did you have any other coping mechanisms that you used to help deal with it all?
I think you find places that accept you for who you are, rather than, I suppose, shun or despise you for what you're not. And to me, those spaces were things like church, board game clubs, little communities that were already on the fringes. And fringe communities are awesome, by the way. That's where you find the coolest people. Like wrestling and board gaming fans are like the coolest people on earth I find to interact with. Only last Saturday, I was in a bar in London watching a wrestling event in Australia live, drinking mimosas and eating pancakes with other not children, other fully grown men. And that is one of the only communities where you can get away with doing that and people still think you're cool.
Love that. That is really, really cool. Now, you've worked on the Channel 4 programs, The Undateables and Beauty and the Beast, The Ugly Face of Prejudice, and they give a voice to people with disabilities. I mean, what do you enjoy about working on those types of programs?
It is the fact that you're giving a voice to people with disabilities. And I think as a disabled professional, I think my presence in the whole process is really important because otherwise you can just wind up with a bunch of non-disabled people, no matter how well-meaning. I don't think any of these mistakes or faux pas happen in malice, but you wind up talking over the community or talking for the community you're looking to serve rather than giving them the tools, the skills, and the platform to speak for themselves. And particularly now in 2024, because I've not done that kind of program for like well over a decade now. But the language and the politically correct minefield can be a nightmare. And so I used to go in, and if people said something that was wrong or off, I'd sort of like take it to one side and like lovingly correct them and make sure they didn't make the mistake again. But now I think with cancel culture being rife, people just take this vow of noble silence and don't say anything. And when we operate in that landscape, we can't move anything forward because no one even wants to have the conversation for fear of getting it wrong. And I think that there's that saying that ignorance is no excuse. I think it is the first time. And then once you know better, then that is taken off, then that's off the table. But yeah, I like working on it because it gives people a platform to be themselves unashamedly. It puts disability on screen in a way that's really incidental. In a 1 hour program, you mention someone's disability for maybe 3 minutes, and then for the next 57, it's just humans falling in love, which is what we all truly deserve.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, like you said, there's naivety, there's getting something wrong because you don't know any better. So there's innocence, there's naivety. And then if you continue to make that mistake after you've been educated and corrected, then it's pure ignorance, and that's all it is. But I think the key, especially with disability, is literally about educating people, about teaching them the right terminology to use. And also, from what I've learned, teaching them that just because someone has a disability does not mean that they should be treated any differently to an able-bodied person.
Well, correct. So there are two things there that are really important to highlight. The just because someone has a disability doesn't mean they should be treated differently. I think that comes down to separating. I think often people confuse the words disability and inability. And it's all about starting a conversation that separates those two dichotomies and truly separates them. And then when it comes down to the conversation, education, interaction, I think a lot of that is in the tone in which it's done. And I think it's very easy to get on a soapbox and call everyone ableist in like a really angry voice. And I think that's a road to absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. I've been saying a lot recently with the movie press tour that we've been doing. You can make things shouty, campaigny, and a little bit venomous, and that'll maybe change what an audience thinks for a day, maybe a week, if you're really lucky. So if you can create a landscape that enables conversation, puts like a hand out and says, come hang out and have a chat, and sort of like does it with a bit more love, compassion, and I guess intelligentsia, rather than changing what people think. I don't want to change what people think. I want to change how they think for the rest of their lives. And those are very subtle differences. but very important ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Now, you have starred in the film Under the Skin alongside Scarlett Johansson, and more recently, the film A Different Man, and that premiered at the 2024 Sundance Festival. So, can you tell me a bit about the roles you played in those films?
Yeah, so Under the Skin, I slipped my way into that. I threw my name in the ring as a bit of a joke and to sort of waste someone's time. And then the longer the whole process went on for, the more serious it all got. And then I start completely freaking out because I'm like, oh no, what have you done? Oh, you're an idiot. You're not. This joke has backfired horribly. And then on the way to meet the director for like the final, I guess, audition, I got hit by a black cab on Tottenham Court Road and broke my leg.
Oh my God.
And and like literally broke it, knee pointing one way, foot pointing other way. And then adrenaline kicks in, and I get my phone out and I call him, and I'm like, "Hey, bro, funny story. I've just been hit by a car. I think my leg's broken. I'm still really keen. Don't think I'm not keen. I'm just going to be about 5 minutes late." And then paramedics and people turn up, and then eventually the director, Jonathan, turns up at the scene of the crime, if you will. At which point I'm like high as giraffe ass on morphine. I am not doing well. And the conversation, and again, apparently I had this relayed back to me by colleagues who were there. He said to me, "Bloody hell, Adam, I didn't realise you did your own stunt work." To which I reply, "Do I look like I've got a fucking stunt double?" And then I get carted away in an ambulance. He then comes in to see me the next day in UCL while I'm waiting for like leg surgery. I've got like pins and rods and stuff, like all the way down now. I'm part robot. Is how I think about it. One step closer to being RoboCop. And then we had a chat, and I got the gig. Went to Elstree to meet the lady I'd be working with. Walk into this room, still in like a support boot and one crutch, like and in my like kind of manly voice, go, "Hi, I'm Adam." And then this lady comes up and goes, "Oh, hi, I'm Scarlett." At which point I play it cool, but internally freaking the hell out a little bit. Then when film that, and I saw that film would maybe be in cinemas for 2 weeks, and then my life could carry on. And 10 years on, I'm still going to screenings of that film and doing Q&As. Off the back of that, I got a movie called Chains for Life, which is the same director that's doing A Different Man with Sebastian Stan, which has been doing like remarkably well. It's been reviewing really, really well. And I've done like Sundance, and I took my family out to the international premiere in Berlin, where they got to see me on the red carpet. And my mom's like, "I'm sorry, Adam, I don't believe you're a film star." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, come to Berlin," and like, what did it happen? And you get out your limo, and then all the cameras go off, and you've got to go and like take selfies and like sign stuff. And she's there, like pissing herself laughing because it's just way too much, way too soon for my mother, who's legally a pensioner and shouldn't have been there in reality. And it's all going really well.
Yeah.
And particularly the new film is like a real meta dark comedy that asks a lot of questions around disability and who should play what. And the reason I like doing it with dark comedy and satire is there's like no hand holding, there's no preaching. You let an audience get there all on their own. And that's, to me, the difference between changing what people think and how people think.
Yeah, definitely. No, I really like the sound of that, but yeah, God, it sounds like things have been going amazing for you. But if your audition your audition story for Under the Skin isn't the most iconic audition story of all time, I don't know what is. Because you took the phrase break a leg and took it a little bit too literally.
That is my commitment to my art form. There are many things I lack, but commitment is not one of them.
Love that though. Well, clearly, actually. Yeah, because I don't think there are many people who could break their leg and then go, "Oh yeah, no, I'm cool. Just give me 5 minutes." Um, so yeah, commitment. You clearly have a lot of it, which is impressive.
You only get one first impression. Make it count. Doesn't have to be a good one. Me and a friend recently pitched a short movie idea to Disney that got funding. And on the train to pitch it, my co-writer Tom's like, I don't know how to do this. And like, leave it with me. They don't have to like us. They just have to remember us. That's the gig. We're not here to make friends. We're here to make money. Leave it with me.
Love
And
that.
so we wrote a short film about a group of disabled D&D players who have a new player join their group who's just acquired a disability and so on. And we had this like really intense 45-minute Q&A with loads of high execs from Disney and the NFTS. And during the Q&A, I made them roll dice to see how well we'd answer their questions. I made them play D&D in the Q&A. And the head of the NFTS asked a really important question about financing and IP, and he rolled a 1. And I think I called him an idiot and moved on really quickly. And then one of the Disney execs asked the exact same question and rolled an 18, so he had to answer it properly. And then apparently after we left, the Disney exec, Charlotte, who is a D&D player, just went to everyone, just so you know, that was amazing.
Yeah, yes, that is exactly what I'm thinking listening to you talk about that. That is iconic.
Like, so you're all clear. That is the pitch, and nothing will be that good.
It's iconic though. I mean, yeah. Have you ever played D&D? Because I really want to play it, but I have never found anyone to play it with.
I do play it. I got a lot of friends who are professional dungeon masters.
Right, okay. No, that's really cool. Because I got into it because I watched Stranger Things and I saw them play it and I haven't found anyone to play it with, but I would love to
We
because it sounds really.
we stole a lot of their camera shots from that.
Oh, wow.
A lot of the techniques they used to film it, we also used. But then they stole a lot of stuff from under the skin, so I'm remarkably fine doing it. In my opinion, it's a trade-off. So yeah, and there are loads of online groups you can join. There's an app called D&D Beyond that does the character creation and stuff. And as long as you've got a good dungeon master, then everything's funky.
Right, okay. Yeah, thank you because I've been looking into that for an unreal amount of time. So thank you for that. But yeah, I see first impressions are tricky, aren't they? Because I think from my perspective, I I'm one of those people who worries a lot about first impressions. I want to make the best first impression humanly possible. Maybe that's because I have anxiety. In fact, yes, it probably is. But I always worry about making a good first impression when you're totally right. It's not necessarily about making a good first impression, it's just about taking that leap of faith and making a first impression in the first place.
Yeah, a lot of it is sort of like planting your seat and giving it to them. And as someone who's got like a very visible disability, I've got to put people at ease to this new experience they're having really quickly. Because when you're confronted with something you're not used to, um, be it sort of like disability or whatever, the old reptilian part of your brain, the flight, sight, or freeze mechanic kicks in. And so you've got roughly 11 seconds to sort of like normalize this new experience to someone in a way that's sort of like kind of kind, charming, with a level of je ne sais quoi. And then slowly, you know, bring them up, bring them down, and then just share humanity with people. When we shot this new film, um, I lived in Manhattan for 2 months. And whenever I'm going to be anywhere for a long time, I'll find my coffee spot, I'll find my breakfast spot, and I'll find a bar. And I'll make those my three regular go-tos, where I'm going to see the same people over and over and over as like a cast iron guarantee. And then the first few times are always invariably quite hard work on my part. And there's one argument that it isn't the job of the disabled community to fix a problem they didn't create. But on the other hand, who better equipped to fix it than that community? And that's all different strokes for different folks. I'm not going to tell other disabled people how to live their lives or interact in the world around them. I can only speak to the way I do it. And as someone who now has, friends all over the world, is a widely respected speaker, I think there's a lot to be said of if the world won't accept disability, then disability is going to invade the world. And very often now I open with, "Hi, my name's Adam," literally to a guy in New York. I was like, "Hi, my name's Adam. We're going to be friends. How do you want to do this?" Just like given no choice but to be your mate.
I like that though, like kind of forced into it, but it does work. I like it.
There's a certain amount of cockiness to it as well that people often appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost think like confidence is key. If you're confident, um, then the person that you're interacting with is they're automatically gonna feel a bit more reassured that they're with someone who is confident.
Yeah, I think I asked someone out like that once. I think I literally went up to a girl in a bar and went, "Hi, my name's Adam. I'd like to take you to dinner. What's your schedule like?"
That's one way of doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a good date. We went for sushi.
Love that.
We're not like a couple, but we still talk. We're still really good mates.
That is definitely one way of doing it, and clearly it works. So love that. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about typecasting because I know it's
Yeah.
something that you've kind of talked openly about. So, do you think that like typecasting people with facial disfigurements has kind of impacted people's perceptions and possibly created some stereotypes?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And it's certainly there's a litany of sort of disfigured and disabled bad guys in films that simply add to the lexicon of the school playground and the bullying. And I've been called all of them. And then I have to go into detail and correct the backstories and the medicine of it all because I'm a smart ass. And that's what I do. And though that's not to say I want to blanketly ban all of that. I just think there needs to be a little bit of balance. Where are the sort of like the good guys and the heroes and the winners? Where's the incidental disability incident where it isn't a like an arc to someone's story, where you're not sort of like the victim, the villain, or the false hero, but you're just there because you're a damn good actor and people want to work with you. I mean, secretly, well, it's becoming less and less secret as the more I do interviews like this. I'd love to play a bad guy, but not because I have a disfigurement, just because I'm an asshole. Like the disfigurement's got nothing to do with it. I'm just a bad dude who woke up one day and chose violence.
Yeah, I admittedly think that playing a bad guy would be really cool, and I agree with you. It's also something I would love to do if I ever do acting when I'm older.
Right, you get to go to work, be a prick, get paid to do it, and once they are cut, everyone's cool with you again. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's
honestly,
like it's like therapy.
very niche type of therapy, but yes, yeah, it is. But yeah, no, I agree with you because like I have noticed as well watching films and stuff, people with disabilities are almost always villain or victim, never really like proper hero. And then you get sometimes where able-bodied people are cast as disabled characters, but you very rarely see that the other way round.
No, and it's the old Oscar grab, isn't it? I think only three disabled actors have won Oscars for playing disabled characters. But I think nearly 20 non-disabled actors have what I call quipped up and won. And some of them I kind of have a bit more time for than others, like the Theory of Everything, when the character's going from non-disabled to disabled. I get that. Where we've done it in a different man, we've done it to almost satirize other people doing it. So we're sort of subversively mocking it and starting a conversation. But things like Bryan Cranston in The Upside, I found egregious, particularly because he just signed an open letter about representation of disability in film. And when often people talk about, but then you wouldn't get wonderful performances like Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot. And like, yeah, but that film predates disability equality legislation in both England and America. That film predates like equal rights as a human. So that's an awful, awful example to use. And we go, well, would Robert De Niro, would a blind actor have been able to give us an authentic performance as Robert De Niro instead of a woman? And it's like, well, how many blind people do you know for a start? Well, what's that got to do with it? Well, because you've used the word authentic, so I want to know what your base measure for authenticity is in the blind community. Because if you don't have one, if your only frame of reference is other people doing the same thing, then let's take the word authentic out of the lexicon.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you about that. Now, you have spoken openly about disability hate crimes and the lack of sort of coverage and attention that they receive.
Yeah.
What changes would you like to take place to improve this?
I think I would like disfigurement to have its own category legally. At the moment, it's tagged on to the disability section of the Equality Act. I think the legal delineation between race and religious hate crimes and the three other categories isn't helpful. I think if you have a piece of legislation based on equality, then everyone should be treated with parity. I think the definitions need to be made clearer. I think there's a difference between hate speech and speech that is hateful. I don't think they're the same thing. And I'd like to see the disabled community be aware of what their rights are and operate within that framework. Because people can go too far the other way. Right? Not everything bad that happens to me is hate crime. If I get really drunk and fall over, that's not gravity committing a hate crime. And I think kind of, yeah, so to work on those delineations to me would be really good. I'm a real knowledge is power guy. So I like to read around things before I speak on them. I did like months of research before I did that hate crime documentary, like months. So I could go into every situation prepared with sort of like the facts and not just and whilst feelings are important, I think facts are more more important.
Yeah, I get that. I could tell. I watched that documentary whilst doing a bit of research on you to get to know you a bit better. And I could tell that you'd done so much research for that. And it really, really paid off. So I totally agree with you. Like, knowledge is definitely power and it really helps.
But it also gives you a reason to be there. I get really annoyed when I watch documentaries, and you can tell that the presenter's just turned up on the day and hasn't been involved in sort of like the behind the scenes stuff in any way, shape or form. And I think that's the difference between sort of like a presenter and a journalist. Like, and I grew up watching the greats do it. I grew up like watching Attenborough and Theroux do their thing and master their craft. And I was like, that's the kind of journalist, that's the kind of documentary presenter I want to be, who's gotten involved, who did the research, who got paid for being on production and not for presenting. And yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Because, yeah, from my perspective as well, the amount of research that I do for a singular podcast is crazy. And it's me and my mum helps me out with research purely because not all websites are accessible for a screen reader. That's the only reason. But I could not imagine going into a podcast without doing loads of research. I couldn't do it. Like, I have to do so much research to do what I do, and it always pays off.
yeah. Whenever I do anything, I have like a hard and I have a hard and fast. Well, I have two hard and fast rules that I stick to. Whenever I do anything, be it a podcast, a movie, live TV, and what have you, I'll always watch it back 10 times in a row and make notes on how I did.
That's interesting you say
That
that.
way, it gives you true perspective of what you actually said, not what you think you said. And it helps you knock off all of the ums and the ahs and stops you starting questions with answers with the same answer. And it also just makes you a better interviewee and a better performer and helps you understand the question better and answer the question better. And then if I'm doing a talk or a keynote or something, for every minute I'm going to be talking for, I'll put an hour prep in.
Wow, okay. Yeah, that is a lot, but I totally get why. But it's interesting you say about listening to like the podcasts you do and the movies you're in back and watching and listening to them back. Because I'm the opposite. I very, very rarely do that. And the one reason is I am my own harshest critic. And I know that for a fact. So I know that if I listen to it back, all I would do is go, oh my God, I should have done that better and that better and that better. And it would be very difficult to pick out things that I liked about the way I did things during the podcast or whatever. So it's interesting you say that because I could not do that, I don't think.
Well, with regards to sort of picking out the good things, the fact that you're where you are means you're doing it right. And I always say imposter syndrome is always a good thing because it's the right amount of, I guess, anxiety that keeps you on your toes and makes you want to do it, improve it, and do it again. And the only people that don't get imposter syndrome are imposters. So the fact you have that means you're doing the right thing at the exact right pace. And there's nothing wrong with a bit of constructive self-criticism and sharpening up those skills, as I said earlier. And there's an amazing podcast by my very good friend Elizabeth Day called How to Fail, where she gets successful people on and they give 3 examples in there of when they like shafted it big time and how it made them better people. So yeah, and again, failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the journey towards it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I mean, this is, a lot of my guests think this is kind of a bit of a tricky question, but what would you say has been your proudest moment in your life so far?
Oh, I really like this question because I'm a big fan of sort of like philosophy and forward thinking. My proudest moment in my life is always the next one.
I like that.
I don't I think it's okay to look back at your successes but not stare back at them. And I think if you hold up one thing that you've already done as sort of like your magnum opus, then anything that you do next is always gonna pale in comparison before it's even happened. So yeah, my the thing I'm most proud of is whatever's gonna happen next.
I love that. That is so cool. How did you like when did you kind of come up with that philosophy and how did you come up with it?
I saw a pro wrestler say it and thought, I like that, I'm stealing that. A friend of mine interviewed John Cena and asked him what his favourite match he's ever had was. And he's like, always the next one. You're going to every project and every match with the mentality, this will be the best thing I do.
Right. Okay. I mean, that is a really cool philosophy. I love that. Well, let's keep looking forward to the future then. Let's keep looking forward to those next proudest moments. Do you have any sort of like goals or aspirations for the future that you would like to achieve?
I want to do a kids book at some point,
Hmm.
and then maybe like a more grown up sort of like philosophical book. I don't know how those of those work out, but I'm sure if I sit down for long enough, I'll think about it. I do a lot of my like heavy thinking in like bars and coffee shops. Those are sort of like my quiet places. I got a couple of other films on like that I'm attached to that could do well. And I'm taking it I take everything like one day at a time. And I always try and wake up every morning and be a better person I was today than I was yesterday, however that looks. And yeah, one day at a time. And I always I've always had the attitude of decide what you want to be and go be it.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I think it's so important to take things one day at a time because often I think we can see how do I explain this? I think we can see life itself as just this one massive long stretch that you've somehow got to get across. rather as seeing it as stepping stones, say across a river, each day being a stepping stone that you've got to jump over. Um, and I think taking things one day at a time, jumping one stepping stone at a time, is much easier than visualizing this massive long stretch that you've got to get across somehow.
Yeah, and there'll be people listening to this, like young people, old people, like whoever, who like have got no idea what they want to be doing right now, like none at all, and that's okay. I've still got no idea what I need to be doing with my life and adulting. But if you want to get some kind of direction, I think there are three things we can all ask ourselves: is number one, what do we like? Number two, what are we good at? And as long as both those things are legal, godly and legal, rock and roll. But I think what really gave me a real kick up the arse, was when someone once asked me, okay, what do you like? What are you good at? And thirdly, what pisses you off? What would you look at in the world and get like righteously mad at? And very often, if we can find where our misery is, we can find where our ministry is.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's a really interesting way to look at it. But yeah, you're totally right. You've got to find the bad things to then see the good. It's not all positive, it's not all negative, it's a mix between the two, and you've got to see both sides of the coin
Yeah,
almost.
find issues, go fix them.
Yeah.
Make it always solution orientated, or depending on what side of the dichotomy you're on. Like I often get into who is it? It was a quite a well-known beverage company, and they done something. When I did Beauty and the Beast, it was one of the companies who we did the whole hiring thing, and they were quite they didn't do very well, and I kept in like contact with them, and you get these like snooty HR emails, and it went back and forth for a long time, and then they went, Mr. Pearson, do you want to be part of the solution or part of the problem? And I was like, well, as far as you're concerned, I'm the whole problem right right now. This is badly for everyone. And yeah, I got my apology, I got my recompense, and I don't pay for their product anymore.
Fair enough. I mean, you got what you wanted, so we love that. It worked.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like revenge for getting back at people.
Yeah. Revenge is something I avoid most of the time, but when it's necessary, it's cool.
Absolutely. That is the correct attitude to have.
Well, Adam, like, you are incredible, first up. Um,
I try. Keep thinking that. If we could get that rumor circulating the internet, that'd really help me out.
oh, I will definitely. And also, correction, that's not a rumor, that's a fact. All right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. That's a spoiler.
yeah, yes. Definitely. Yeah, you're incredible. I have absolutely loved getting to chat to you. I've been so excited about this and I have loved getting to meet you. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to me. It genuinely means the world.
Anytime at all. Anytime.
Thank you. And thank you to my audience for listening, and I will see you all next time.